Mr Speaker, I welcome the representatives of both Ngati Manawa and Ngati Whare who have joined us tonight for this great occasion. Engagement in these settlements requires commitment and courage. It often involves some difficult trade-offs, personally and professionally, by those who are so involved in it. I want to pay tribute to the leadership, the pragmatism and the hard work of the negotiating teams of the two iwi who are with us tonight. It's through the diligent labour of these people that we are here on this occasion. I particularly want to acknowledge those who are no longer with us, especially the late Ngati Manawa leader Bill Bird, who provided the leadership and guidance for Ngati Manawa for so many years. His determination to ensure that the settlement addressed the grievances of Ngati Manawa and that there was meaningful redress that would benefit Ngati Manawa now and in the future is going to be his legacy. He will never be forgotten. Mr Horomia was so right. That ghastly disease weakened and killed Bill, but he fought to the very end, and indeed I recall my last meeting with him at a hotel in Rotorua. He was so ill it took him about 20 minutes to get from the car into the hotel, but he was a man of great courage and great spirit, and he made a huge contribution at that meeting, and I think it was at that meeting that we sealed the deal. I am so very saddened he has passed prior to this bill being introduced in the House, but I'm heartened that he was able to sign the deed of settlement on behalf of his people. E te rangatira moi mai rā. I also mentioned Denise Howden, a negotiator for Ngati Manawa who has passed away. Her legacy lives on in the settlement, especially in the commercial redress. E te tuahine moi mai rā. So this is, as other speakers have said, a very important day, not only for those of us gathered here today, but for those who have gone before us and those who are going to follow us. Today is as much about them as they are about us here today. As other speakers have said, the grievances of these two iwi are significant and are long-standing. This bill recognises and addresses those grievances. This bill settles all of Ngati Manawa and Ngati Whare's historical Treaty of Waitangi claims. Both iwi have a close relationship, and their areas of interest actually overlap with each other. It's important to remember that they are intrinsically linked. Ngati Whare's ancestor, Whare Pako, and Ngati Manawa's ancestor, Tangi Haruru, were uncle and nephew. So it only seems fitting that the two iwi come together as whānau to complete their settlement legislation. In November 2003, the Crown recognised the mandates of Te Runanga o Ngati Manawa and Te Runanga o Ngati Whare, and negotiations began with the signing of terms of negotiation in May 2004. As Mr Horomia has said, both iwi were part of the CNI collective, whose forestry claims were addressed as part of that settlement. Since the CNI settlement, Ngati Whare and Ngati Manawa have progressed largely in parallel to complete their comprehensive negotiations. In 2009, the Crown and Te Runanga o Ngati Whare and Te Runanga o Ngati Manawa signed separate deeds of settlement to settle all of their outstanding historical Treaty of Waitangi claims. I acknowledge my predecessor, Dr Cullen, the work he did. I also acknowledge Mita Ruranui and Mr Horomia for their contribution. It's significant and a reflection of their long-standing whakapapa ties that these two iwis are back together in this omnibus settlement bill. Although they have strong links, it's appropriate that their grievances are recognised in their own settlement acts. So I, in due course, will seek permission from the House to split the bill into two parts, namely the Ngati Manawa Claims Settlement Bill and the Ngati Whare Claims Settlement Bill. These settlements, along with the CNI settlement and the affiliate Te Arawa Iwi and Hapu settlement, will greatly assist toward the resolution of historical treaty claims in this region. So today's a very important step in acknowledging the grievances and moving forward together. Ngati Manawa's settlement is intended to meet the traditional, historical, cultural and spiritual interests of the iwi. The key aspects of the cultural redress package aim to reinvigorate the relationship between Ngati Manawa and sites of significance in their areas of interest, including through the vesting of sites of particular significance to Ngati Manawa, the erection of pōrahui to mark traditional iwi boundaries, the creation of a body to restore Ngati Manawa and Ngati Whare's mana over their ancestral river and their relationship with eel or tuna, and importantly, the transfer and gift back of Ngati Manawa's ancestral monga, tawhiohu. Mr. Speaker, the redress provided to Ngati Whare recognises that the nation has benefited greatly from the resources of their rohe. We should recognise that many of the state houses in this country which shelter our people in times of need and in which future leaders have been raised came from the Whirinaki. The Crown has not always appropriately recognised this contribution Ngati Whare has made to the history and future of our nation, nor has it noted the costs that their ancestral lands bore as a result of the forestry industry. Following the signing of the deed of settlement in December last year, I had the honour of planting a few trees as a first stage of the regeneration project. I have to tell Mr. Hughes they weren't cactus, they were rimu, and it's my sincere hope, and I do hope James Carlson's looking after them, it's my sincere hope that in the years to come future generations of New Zealanders will enjoy the Whirinaki as it was before the forestry industry took its toll on the mighty rimu, kahikatea and miro. Other speakers are quite right, and they've said it in this debate and in other debates, that of course it's not possible fully to compensate iwi for the loss their peoples have suffered. But hopefully the cultural redress in this bill seeks to recognise Ngati Manawa and Ngati Whare's long-standing cultural and spiritual association with this region. The Crown is acutely aware when it enters negotiations that full restitution is impossible. We can't turn the clock back or return all that was lost. I am very aware of the generosity of both these iwi in accepting this, and I pay tribute to that now. Their gift to the nation in doing so is gratefully received. Mr. Speaker, I'm confident this bill will settle these claims in a just and final manner, taking into account all of their grievances and the rights of all New Zealanders. I acknowledge these two iwi who have suffered the breaches of the treaty and who have carried these grievances, as Mr. Horomia said, for far too long. I acknowledge the trustees of both Runanga. Their dedication and their determination on behalf of their iwi has been vital in achieving settlement. Mr. Speaker, the introduction of this bill begins the last stage of the settlement that seeks to recognise what's important to the peoples of Ngati Manawa and Ngati Whare and to provide redress for historical breaches of the treaty. It's one of the many settlements this government is progressing at this time. So I pay tribute to those who are present. I promise them that this bill will be entrusted to the Maori Affairs Select Committee under the excellent chairmanship of Mr. Henare, and I'm sure Mr. Horomia and Mr. Ruranui and Mr. Davis will be there helping, and we'll get the bill back to the House as quickly as we can and enacted into law.
Mr.